Welcome to Safety Driven's webinar on all things AuditSoft. Today we have Radia Sekia from AuditSoft and her team who are going to go over team auditing and some best practices that will help everybody in implementing your audit. So why don't you take this away, Sadia? We'll get everything going. Thanks very much.
I'm Radha. Like Earl said, I am on the customer success team over at AuditSoft. My job is to communicate with the customer, make sure you have the resources, make sure you're supported. And part of that is this webinar. So today we're going to be talking about team audits and the best practices for completing a team audit on AuditSoft. We'll show you step by step how to go through that, and we'll also send out some resources afterwards. Right now, if you click on the resources button on the bottom right corner, it should be, there'll be a couple links for you with more instructions and articles on team audits and Safety Driven's user manual as well. But the stars of our show today are really Elishka and Niven from our team. They are on the support team at AuditSoft, and if you've ever reached out to our support team, you might have spoken with one of them. They are always supporting our users with all kinds of questions, especially team audits. So I'm going to pass over to them now to walk you through the best practice way to complete a team audit for your safety-driven audits.
Thank you very much, Radha. Hi, my name is Elishka. Today I'm going to be acting as the lead auditor of our team. Please note that all the information and data I'm going to be showing you as I've entered into the file is all for the purpose of demonstrating how to complete a team audit, how to merge the files. It's from a technical standpoint, so if it has any information there that doesn't quite make sense to you as an auditor, just note that it's not examples for a real audit. This is just for that. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you, my program here. We are going to go from the point of me as a lead auditor. We've had our pre-audit meeting. We have made some decisions on who is going to do what, and I have downloaded the license that I need using the legal company name above. Something to start off with, or that I would really love to demonstrate here, is how AuditSoft communicates with you as a user. So you can see the legal name up here, you can see the license type and file over here, and you can see what I've named the file. This is all good information for you to keep track of, as naming files is important in the merging process, something that you really do want to keep track of. I'm not quite sure yet how much of the demo of this software seems. I'm just going to briefly go over this top bar here. You can see that there is your save or save as, you have your file location, PDF button. This is the merge one we're going to be looking at today. That's sort of, center stage for us. Your help button, where if ever you need us, you can always reach us you can reach out for articles or contact us if you're having difficulties. And the home button. Now, this would be the first page. This is the instructions. This is the introduction, but we're going to hop over to the audit information section. As a team lead, my goal and best practices would be I first purchase the license. Nobody else purchases a license yet. First I purchase it and then I create the file. And my goal is to fill up at least these top two sections as much as possible as a team lead before handing that copy of the file over to my team. So here you can see just general information. We're going to be auditing Greenleaf Landscaping. We're going to enter all information. And AuditSoft is communicating with us right off the bat. As you can see, wherever I'm clicking is being outlined in blue, so that's where you're active. If anything's ever red, it's because it's necessary. It needs to be entered. In addition to that, also please note here on the side, you can see this little check mark. So I've definitely entered all the information I require over here. These sections are fully complete. And where you can see this little exclamation mark is typically where it's telling you you need to enter more information. This is in reference to the audit as a whole. So if you're sending off a file with some of these exclamation marks, that's not bad at all. That is purely working with the audit as a whole and communicating to you what is necessary. Now we have the company details that we're auditing, but here in the audit details will be my information as the lead auditor. This is sometimes where our team audits can sort of get a little difficult because sometimes people will have their own file and they'll put in their own information as a team auditor here, but we want to maintain that this is where the lead auditor's information remains. As we scroll down in this section, you can see the audit details. We have chosen everything for this demo here. And then you can see there's a check mark. Now, if I unclick it, this portion goes away. I can repopulate it by saying it's a team audit. And of course, here I'm stating who is what and what each of us will be doing. Now, ideally, you want to have this already discussed in the pre-audit plan, but this is also just a reminder to keep everything on track. All right, so, and please, as I'm going through this, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm of course going to be pointing a couple of things out, but I would love if anyone has anything they need to know, ask me right now.
And on that note, Alishka, so sorry to interrupt. If anybody wants to ask any question, you're welcome to drop it in the Q&A box. It should be at the bottom row of your Zoom call or in the chat. So feel free to drop it in anywhere.
All right, so we're moving back forward, we're moving down here. We're going to the scope. Now the scope is the important part, the part that where AuditSoft wants to catch you when you fall, but there are certain things you might want to keep in mind while doing this. I'm going to just briefly mention the selecting audit content. If ever you see anything grayed out or checked like that, that just means it's mandatory. It's already done. You can't change it. There are some things you can and cannot change, and AuditSoft will always let you know when you require justification or approval from your lead auditor or your association to move forward. But for now, for the purposes of this audit, we're just going to include absolutely everything. Now we're going to go down to site sampling. This part is incredibly important. Again, the information for a core audit, you wouldn't just have 18 employees, but I don't want to give my team auditor too much work during this demo. So we're just going to be focusing on the numbers that we can work with. But here you can see the sites. You will have the site itself, the type, the province, description. There might be additional descriptors there, when they were last audited, and then of course the divide between maybe, the manager, supervisor, worker, contractor. Something to note is that anything in blue is just going to be a type of worker. It's not going to be a separate category that adds the number by itself. So I'd say this facility has, it has 9 employees at this facility with the way these numbers are. Even if I put, say, 2 here and said that there were 2 joint health and safety members, it's still 9 employees, just 2 of them being in that category. And as you can see here, I have not checked off any of these boxes. This part is important for the team lead. Before I send the file off to my team members, I'm not going to check any of this. This is more just to make sure that nobody gets confused on the parts that they're doing. They're going to go back to audit details, see what parts they're doing. So Niven is going to take a look. So after I've sent this file, of course, I have to go to head office and I'm going to do documentation. So I'll click that for myself, but I won't do it until after I've already sent the files. The reason that is because in the gather evidence section, when you click one of these check marks, it populates the ability to edit that information down in gathering evidence. So this is one of the reasons why we want to be very careful when selecting what is able to be edited. So I'm going to remove that right now. You can see also that it totals the number of sites, employees. These are all the calculations that are put into the system prior and they meet the association's expectations. If you ever have any questions on why the math is working out the way it is, especially if you've done this before and you did it in a different manner, that would always be something to request of your association. If you do get approval from them, you can adjust these numbers manually. But again, AuditSoft is always going to catch you. It's going to let you know when you need to be very careful with making changes. And as you can see here, things pop up that you need to get approval for. We're not going to be doing any manual numbers today, so I'm going to turn that right off before we go to the next section here. Next, we have our interview planning. Again, AuditSoft is catching me and saying, hey, you didn't choose anything. You didn't check mark anything. How do I know you're going to interview these people? That's not something for me to worry about right now. That's something I'm going to be as we fill things in, as we add interviews, this little error message here is going to go away. I did grab these. I just said yes to all of these questions. Of course, you're going to have different answers, and I put in my justification. Whenever you click things on AuditSoft, little explanations will pop up. So if you're new or you are very experienced, regardless of your role, AuditSoft is there to assist you. And of course, if you're very experienced, you can ignore all of this because you know how to answer this question. One little feature I just remembered now that I want to point out as well, if you are having difficulty typing or you prefer doing record, this will record your voice and of course type everything out for you that you can correct. So yeah. As a lead auditor, I have pretty much stated what I wanted from my team through the audit details, and then I have correctly put in all the sites and workers. Something I also want to note, and where there may be issues with merging files. So when we're merging files together, there needs to be consistency in certain sections. So for instance, very important in the site sampling summary, these boxes need to be spelled correctly in every copy of the file. It needs to be exactly the same for the merge to occur. This is why best practices are that the lead auditor will type this out themselves and nobody else is going to touch anything but the arrows to sort of indicate where they're going to be making changes. If this is misspelled even by a single letter, that could potentially prevent a merge. So please do be careful if you are a team auditor and you've received your file, do not touch any of these letters just to make sure everything is good. And yeah, it's very simple. Now that I've done this, I can save. I've saved my file itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sending this to Niven. Now, I want to demonstrate to you how simple this truly is. So I'm going to pop it in our chat. I'm going to put this file in there. And we're just going to get it here. Let me pull that up. Drag it over. I do recommend, this is another thing I am very careful about, is that when you are transferring a file, you don't do it over a shared drive. Do it over either an email where you can zip up the file. If you zip it up, it compresses it and makes it easier to receive. But if you do it in a shared drive, the biggest problem with that is that it sometimes muddles with the data. So we don't want to use that. And what I have done to name this file to make it simple is I have named it after the type of license. And then I have said, this is the master copy. This is my copy, Alishka's. And I've sent it over to Niven. We want to be very sure that the person who starts the license is the person who merges the file at the end. So this is why you want to make sure that they're labeled adequately to discern which file is which. All right, now that I've completed that section, I'm going to hand this off to Niven, my team auditor.
Thank you, Dishkir. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Screen 2, perfect. All right, so the first step would be to download and save the file to your computer. So I have it saved right here. So there's two ways of opening up this file. Either I could double click on this file, or I could go to the AuditSoft tool, click on Open Audit, find my file. It's going to be right here, the Dishkir's master file. Click Open. And as you can see, it prompts us to get a license. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click Get a License. And as you can see, the legal name is right here. Please don't make any changes to this. Make changes to the province, make sure it's according. So it's going to be British Columbia. Accept the terms and conditions for AuditSoft, and then click Submit Request. When you click Submit Request, it will go to the Association Administrator at Safety Driven, and they will approve or reject this license. So in this case, it's going to be RADA. So please let us know when it's done, RADA.
It is approved.
Thank you. So what I can do is I can click refresh right here, and the license pending is gone away. So now I can just go to the recent files right here. And the first step would be to save as. I'm just going to go to save as. And I'm going to change the name from master to Niven version. And this is the reason why, so we can differentiate between the master and my version when we complete the merge. So I click save. The next step would be to go to audit details, check the comments, and Ilishka has said, go to site 1, complete interviews and observations. So I'm going to go to site sampling, go to site 1, and check out interviews and observation. The next step would be to conduct interviews. And I can go ahead and start my interview. And as you can see, I am going to start supervisors interviews. So I'm going to click here and then click start. So the first step would be to add a title. As you can see, the site is site 1, the role is supervisor. The title is going to be level 1 supervisor. Quantity is going to be 1. If this interviewee is part of the Joint Health and Safety Committee member, you would have to check off this box, which will populate more questions. But in this case, he is not. So now we can go ahead and start answering these questions. So question 1.2.2, roles and responsibilities of senior managers, middle managers, and supervisors in managing health and safety in the workplace. If I click here on more, it will give me a set of guidelines for the interview question. And if I also look below, I do have some sample interview questions that I didn't use to ask this interviewee. I can also add attachments if I would like. And on the far right-hand side, we do have a response, which is mandatory. So we have a positive response, we have a negative response, we have a no comment, which is the same as a negative response, and we have a question is not applicable to this interviewee. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a positive response and add a comment as well, so it's going to be a level. Here. And a quick note on the comments. So the comments that I entered here for question 1.2.2 are collected. So what that means is when I open up a new interview, I will see this comment there again as well. And the reason why is because it's collected and you are trying to gather as much information as you possibly can to complete the audit results. And in the audit results, you can append your comments directly to your findings and notes, your strengths, your opportunities for improvements, or corrective action. So please do not delete the comment when you do see a duplicate, just add on to them. So next we have question 1.2.3. Are supervisors monitoring the health and safety of all workers under direct supervision? As you can see, this question is worth 15 points. Interview and observations question. So for interview, the maximum number of points awarded is 5. Right below, we do have a sample set of questions that we can ask, and we also have resources as well. So I'm quickly going to go ahead and add a comment and also add some responses, and I'm going to quickly answer some questions. And once I am complete, I can click done. As you can see, we are partially complete 1 out of 2 interviews. So if I click back here, I can go back and edit, or I can start a new interview. So I'm going to start a new interview. So the site is going to be the same, supervisor is the role, and title is going to be site. They are not a Joint Health and Safety Committee member, so I'm not going to check that off. And the first thing everybody will probably notice is the comments. The comments are reappearing. So please do not delete these comments, because if I delete it right here, it will delete it from my initial interview, and you will lose that comment. So please just add on to the comments like I did here. So I'm quickly going to go ahead and add some responses, add some comments as well. And once I am complete, I can click done on top right-hand side. And as you can see, we do have data for 2 out of 2 interviews for supervisors at site 1. If I want to view my results, I can click here on results. And on the far left-hand side, we do have the questions in order. Right in the middle, we have the results for both interviews that we just completed. And right beside, we have the comments of both interviews as well. And on the far right, we do have individual interview responses, which can manually be changed here as well. So once I am complete my interviews, I can move forward and complete my report observation. And as you can see here, site 1, I just have to click add or edit. The cool thing about AuditSoft is that we have a quick toggle that you can toggle quickly through all 9 elements. And moving forward to the question 1.1.5 is a policy readily available to all employees. If I click on the points, it will tell me that this is an observations question. So it's going to be a yes or a no. A yes is going to be 100% compliant. A no is going to be 0% compliant. I could also add the policy as well if I click add attachment and drop it, drag and drop it here. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a positive response, so 100% compliant, and also add a comment. Let's see, is all good. Next, we can go to question 1.2.3, which is a little bit different. Our supervisor is monitoring the health and safety of all workers under direct supervision. As you can see, this question is worth 15 points. If I drop it down, it's a documentation, interviews, and observations question. And for observations, the maximum number of points awarded is 5. If I click here on more, it will give me a set of guidelines for the observations under O. And I can also view my comments from my interviews as well if I click show other comments. We do have a set of resources right here as well, and also you can add attachments. To answer this question, you would either have to give it a percentage or a fraction. So if you click right here on percentage compliant and click on the question mark, you can see that I can either give it a percentage or I could give it a fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and say that most, but not all supervisors are monitoring the health and safety. So most being 4 out of 5, which will give me 80%. Or I can either give it a percentage and give it an 80%. It's best practice when you are completing team audits to choose one or the other. So choose fraction or percentage because it will be much easier when you do complete the merge. So
Yeah, and then you gotta do fractions. We had this in our meeting, remember? But we're copying
Sorry about that. 4 out of 5. There we go. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and answer all of the responses. So 3 out of 4. And once I am complete, I can click done on the top right. As you can see here, we do have a clear icon that pops up, which indicates that there is data for this specific site. If I do want to wipe all data from this site, I can just click clear and then clear all results and click yes. To view my results, I can just click here on the results tab. And as you can see here, the questions are on the left, the results in the middle, comments will be right beside, and the individual responses right here as well. Once I am complete, I can save my file and send it back over to Ilishke, where she can complete the merge. So I am going to stop sharing. And Ilishke, I will send you this file.
Thank you, thank you. Oh my goodness. You know, I just realized I put joint health and safety committee members only at my site where I don't do interviews. So I'm going to show you guys how that works in a moment. I'm going to first grab this file. Now, when I grab this file, don't save it, don't open it. Or I guess save it to your device, but do not open it because as the lead auditor, you're only going to be working with your own file. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to download Niven's version. I'll leave that there for a second. And then I'm going to share our screen, or rather my screen over here. All right. So while Niven was working on his portion, I was working on mine. I had to do the documentation for the head office here. So I clicked that off. They started working on it. The reason on the site sampling this is grayed out is because I put data in here. So I can't unclick that until I clear everything that I've already done, which I have no intention of doing, of clearing all my hard work there. I wanted to quickly demonstrate 2 points. So what I said with that interview, I'm just going to show you temporarily, even though I'm not supposed to be doing the interviews. But I'm going to go first to my documentation and how I entered that. Please note that we have a yes or no or didn't answer or not applicable to the site, sorry. Sometimes you have different ones you can give. It's usually 100% or 0 and 0, depending on where you are in the document. But I have fulfilled this review documentation, and as per our discussion in the pre-audit plan, I have used fractions to answer some of these questions. So now I'm going to go back to site sampling. I'm just going to temporarily give us an interview at the site to show you here. You can see that they are saying 0 out of 2 members have been interviewed. I'm going to quickly hop in here. I'm going to start. The way you make sure that it's a joint health and safety member that gets that interview is you, of course, type in, I'm just going to say supervisor comment. But I'm also going to note, hey, this person that I'm interviewing, they are a joint health and safety member. And when you see that clicked over here and you say done, you will see 1 out of the 2 members have been have been checked off. They've been asked questions. So that's sort of how we make sure that if there are those members, you can classify them by checking off which person it is. It might change when you're doing these because you can change the quantity. You can say, well, I'm doing a group interview. And that will change if you say they're all joint and health safety committee members. Please keep note of that. It will document that and see something is off, especially with the numbers. I'm going to remove this now, though, since it was just part of the demonstration. Let me trash this interview. So you can see here is just a little trash can over there to delete the content. Yes, we're gone with that, please, because I'm going to go back. I'm going to uncheck this interview. If I had left that data there, I wouldn't be able to uncheck this. All right, so now I've done my portion. Niven has sent me his portion. That is fantastic. We're going to start from my file. I'm not going to open anybody else's, and I'm going to ask for a merge. It's going to prompt me to save my file, which is fantastic. Something to note about these files is that when you do start a merge, it doesn't take the file and put them together so that you can't look at them individually anymore. It creates a separate merged document. So you'll have the merged version and you'll have the ones before. That way, if anything occurred or any inconsistency occurred between file A and file B, you can still go back and correct those files and try and merge them again. This is just a way that AuditSoft can catch you before there's a mistake made that we can't take back. And it makes sure that that's not ever the case. All right, so I've got Niven's version here. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to grab it. I've got check marks. It's telling me everything is good. Everything is working. It has noted that we've sampled both the way of the fractions. I put like 3 out of 4, and we've also put in percentages. So it has let us know that that may be the case. There may be a little bit of confusion there. We're going to start this merge. And it's going to say, it wants to say master file, copy, merged. It's going to name itself. I'm going to keep that. It's fantastic. All right, so now I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go into site sampling. I'm going to see that Niven did grab site 1, have interview and observation. As you can see, it's grayed out, so I can't remove it until I go here. We have our conducting interviews. I can see that's all worked out and recorded our observations. I can also clear them myself. Of course, it's not recommended, especially if you didn't do this part of the job. And yeah, that's about how we merge files and how we're doing team audits. Of course, the head auditor or the lead auditor, and depending, of course, how you are all structured and how you all work together, may be a little different depending on who you are and where you are. But you just work off of this. The lead auditor would finish up the audit results and submit the audit, and everything will be good. As you can see here, AuditSoft's also got it said, no, you didn't finish nearly enough to submit this file. It's giving me a little bit of a warning there. And yeah, this is where you submit the file after you've completed your merge. Now, that is pretty much the process, how that goes. We won't be, of course, doing the full audit. We don't all have time to sit here while I type out a full audit. But please let me know if you have any questions about the process. Thank you.
There was a question. Tony was asking if you could demonstrate how to do the bulk entry of interviews. I find my externals are preferring to work with paper. It's easier, and then do a bulk entry of the interviews.
Oh, okay.
So they're merging the old and the new here.
Fair enough. Actually, there's a neat thing to do here. So say you're going to be offline. You're not going to take your device with you to the site, right? You want to do offline first. Something you can do, and I think Niven demonstrated this a little bit in the conduct interview section, is you can just go here, even before you enter anything, you can export results and get it. And then if you go back into the software and you're like, all right, I've asked everybody the questions, I'm going to go and I'm going to conduct these interviews. I'm going to put them in. Let's go to the worker because there are 5 there. I'm going to start that off. I'm going to say that I want I'm interviewing 5. So as you can see, all I've done is change the quantity here. And again, AuditSoft catches me, change multiple interviews that have already been completed. Yes, so they are letting me know that I should have some detailed notes to work on this. Again, thank you, AuditSoft. I really appreciate all that. And then you'd enter the comments here, and then you see there's a positive. So you could say, okay, well, maybe I asked these questions. Some of them mentioned, I'm going to just say common because I can't really think of anything to say. But we're going to say maybe 3 out of 5 of the people said something positive. So it's going to note that for the score. I also want to show you, if I say done here, maybe let's do a couple. Let's say, well, let's say 4 here, 3, and 2. So typically where you would see the results, like one, you can see for site 1, it has like 1 person at a time, second person from that side. Where I did the bulk, you can see it under 1 column. Here's the bulk interviews, right? So visually that might be a little bit different from doing it like 1 by 1 like this, but it does document everything. And then you can, like if you're going through results, you can change the results here. We just want to be careful with doing that because again, it might make things a little inconsistent if you're changing scores from the comments in a different section. All right.
It looks like a lot of questions about the Joint Health and Safety Committee. There's one from, well, actually there's a follow-up here from Mark that says, so if we were entering bulk and 1 person should be NA, can you change the total from 5 to 4?
Yes, you can always, so, okay, so let's say 1 person was not, you know, it might be an association question or a quick question. If you, like, would it say that you have NA as in like not applicable as they're not answering the question? Would you put that as a negative response? So like if you interviewed 5 people, but 1 of them is not applicable for one of the questions, do I just say, well, I got 4 out of 5 for a positive response? Or would you prefer for me to separate it and say 1 person and 4 people, and then that 1 person will just be put not applicable for the answers? Is there any particular way you prefer that?
Yeah, good question for Earl, but I will say one thing is that if a question is NA for a person because they have a different role, like one's a worker, one's a supervisor, or whatever, that would have to be separate entries. It wouldn't be a bulk entry for people with different roles.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess it depends. It will depend on the individual situation, if they're not applicable because they can't answer these type of questions, or just because they haven't, you know, like Rada said, have a different role. You can always separate this. You can mix and match. You can edit or remove things. Like even now, right? I just put this in. I can easily change it. But the moment I do that, AuditSoft warns me again, and all of it'll keep these positive scores, but it will remove this. So if you are making an edit after the fact, so you entered 5, but you decided one of them is going to be NA as in not applicable for all of the questions or some of the questions, just keep track that these numbers haven't changed, just this number has changed. So you might have to go through and make sure, you know, everything still matches what your detailed notes said when you went for the interview.
Yeah, and then there's another question from Neil about entering. So if you're doing a bulk entry for an interview and only some of them are Joint Health and Safety Committee members, we would recommend separating them out and then putting them separately. Otherwise, the system will assume that they're either all Joint Health and Safety Committee members or none of them are, depending on whether you check that box.
Yeah, this box puts this condition on that number. So I would say, well, it's because the comments are all collective anyway, right? You're going to be giving a bulk answer regardless of whether you do 1 slot at a time or all 5 of them at once. So my recommendation would be if you have some joint health and safety, just separate them to make everything neat and tidy within the document.
Yeah, but Neil, thank you for the question. We do understand that it would be helpful if you could just bulk entry and then do the Joint Health and Safety Committee members separately. We'll take that feedback. So thanks for bringing that up. On the same topic, there is another question. So Scott says at one of his sites, he was only able to interview 6 of the 8 Joint Health and Safety Committee members, because some people were off. So how would he manually change that?
That is a good question. Well, you know what? I say always, if I don't know the answer, let's play with it. So let's say, let me go to head office. I'm going to say we have 8. I'm wondering, as long as you get the minimum amount of interviews done, I don't think AuditSoft is going to catch you.
Yeah.
So let's just say we're going to go back to the site. I'm going to go to conducting interviews. Oh, are you going to give me what I want? All right, I have to click that check mark. Okay, we're going to go back. I'm going to give my head office something here. So there's 8 of them. Say I'll do these 2 interviews. I'll change them to bulk so I can fill that number up real fast. And I'm going to say these guys are all joint health and safety. We're going to say done. And then I'm going to say here, start. And all of these guys, I did a bulk interview and all of them are joint health and safety. And done. So you can see it's 6 out of 8 joint health and safety. But these numbers where you have to have a certain number of managers, supervisors, workers, contractors, that's what you need to make sure is fulfilled, because we just need a certain sample size from the interviews. We don't necessarily need all of a certain type. Does that make sense? Does that work?
Yeah, so over here it says 6 out of 8 because you indicated under site sampling that there were 8 committee members. Now, if that's you don't have to interview all 8, and if that's changed, you can change the if you go into the interview. So for the workers that are committee members, you can change their status over there if you had interviewed somebody else, like using the Joint Health and Safety Committee member box. So if you were planning on interviewing them, but you didn't, just uncheck that box and then put in the interview for whoever you did interview.
Yeah, just make the adjustment. I'd say that if there were if you plan to do a group interview with all of them, but only 6 of them showed up, then I'd say they probably weren't part of your main sampling size, because then you'd have to come back. I guess it's up to the individual situation, and your association might be better.
Pardon me for interrupting. Could I get you to go back to the site sampling there now?
Of course.
We were looking there, and we've got 8 in the modifier row of Joint Health and Safety Committee members. Now, if you go down to your conduct interviews, before you even go there, you can see it's finished. You've got a green checkbox. But now just click on that, and it's going to tell you that we didn't interview all 8. So no, down to conduct interviews under gather evidence.
Yes, conduct interview. Yeah, you can see that it's green.
So the modifier box it doesn't apply to what you're worried about, Scott. It's what you're looking at here is an opportunity that I was trying for 8, but well, they ghosted me.
Yeah, it's sort of like an adjective rather than a noun, so to speak, right? So it's a quality of, but it is not the definition of that worker.
And as long as you got that green check mark, you're okay. You're golden.
I'm all good.
Yeah.
Software tells me I'm good.
We have a really easy one, Alishka. How do we print out the questions?
Oh, perfect. Okay, so in the gathering evidence section, this is the documentation, interviews, or observation. They all have these 2-sided tabs. So you either have where you're doing your data entry or where you have the full printout of all your questions. I'm going to go to conduct interviews. I'm going to show you, I'm going to delete all of my interviews from head office here because I want to actually remove them so that you can see there's no results for head office. Sorry, I'm clicking a little fast here. So you can see that hasn't popped up yet. You can still print all of these. So I would export this. It's going to export it to, it even says master file interviews, like it puts it in the title there nicely. But you can export this to an Excel sheet. So you would have these questions you can print out in Excel and just take it with you.
Yeah, there's a couple other ways you can export as well. There's the PDF export, which will show you all the questions in there as well. So that you can do at any time.
The only thing I'd say with the PDF to be careful is you're printing out your entire audit PDF when you press that button. So it's a lot of pages. Hopefully you are comfortable enough with Excel to do it that way, because then at least you only get the page you're looking for. But yes, printing out the PDF is definitely an option for you.
All right, we have tons of questions. Let's see the next one. So I think this one might be a question for safety driven. If you have corporate procedures or directives that apply to all sites, do you have to enter this information for all sites, or can you just enter it for the head office?
I was just dealing with a really interesting one where we've got all the corporate information is available to all satellite units via computer link. They have their intranet that they use. And really all they need to do is to go through and do the head office documentation, and it's the same documentation at all sites. So you're now more concerned with, like, there's going to be other documentation you're looking at those sites, but it's going to be things like, did I observe the safety policy posted? Did I observe the safety committee minutes up, and so on? So those are observation validations for your documentation, but the actual paper is going to be the same at all sites because it's electronic. It's just a single continuum for everyone.
Yep. So if everything is documented at head office, you would only need to have documentation in this one check mark. Everything else could just be interviews and observations.
If you were doing like a joint audit of multiple companies, it could be that you've got multiple repositories, and then you'll have to be looking at documentation in multiple sites. But for a single company, something straightforward, don't duplicate the effort.
Oh, and just something, Earl, so when you go to audit details, and I don't want to open too big of a can of worms, but if you are going to do multiple companies and not just single accounts, my recommendation is you specify that. If you have a multiple accounts, it's a joint audit, do go to the audit details and specify that, because when you make these changes in the software, it is able to guide you better in these processes.
Awesome. All right. So if we didn't answer your question properly, or if you have any follow-ups, feel free to drop it in there. We still have a few more minutes. I want to go back to this question from Jamie, and maybe Lishka and Niven, you can tag team this one. It is, can we go over the setup and merge of a team audit, but with only one site? So my understanding is that makes things a little bit simpler, but we can definitely show you how to do that.
My question, sorry, maybe, I don't know, can I get maybe in the chat or something from Jamie? Jamie, do you mean that your lead auditor would not be looking at any sites, or you have two people who are going to both go to one site?
Yeah, good question. We'll wait for Jamie to respond, but I think that what it means is maybe one person does the documentation and then the other person does interviews and observation or whatever. Like you split up the DIO at one site.
Yeah. Because I mean, even if it's if we're looking at something like that, it's still a similar process. I still wouldn't check off. I would still put all the information myself, and I still wouldn't check off any of the boxes until I'd send that file away, so that the person who is going to check their boxes and input their data doesn't get confused or enter things in my area. So yeah, I think it's very similar. We can definitely demonstrate that for you.
This means both on the same site. So Ilishka completes documentation, I complete interviews and observations.
Yep, would be almost identical in process. The only difference is that I would delete this site right here. It will, let me do that right now because I have too much data in there. Or let's do this. Let me go home. We'll save and close, and then I'll go back to my copy. See, this is the nice part about having your own copy still existing. I could go to scope. Let's go to site sampling. I'm going to completely remove this. I'm going to, I want to clear that off because we don't want to show that documentation. And then I'm going to go to audit details. I'm going to say down here, I'm going to say Niven, you're going to do, and I'm just going to say head office. Right. And then I'm going to go back to my site sampling, and there's just one side. I'm going to remove all of this, and then I would save the file and send it off to Niven so that he could click his interview and observation. And then after we've check marked and entered data, the merging is perfectly fine. The only time you're going to have issues with merging is if there's like a misspelling. Like if I put head office and Niven typed HQ, then the file might go, not matching, can't bring this together. But every other way it is exactly the same.
Awesome. Do you mind, let's just go through it. Like, do you mind sending this file over to Niven and then Niven can show you how he would complete his documentation or whatever he
Sure.
is meant to do? And then, yeah, just so we can see how it's basically the same thing. Just put in the one site instead of multiple.
Okay, I'm going to save as work. I'm going to put it as master copy, and then I'm just going to put dot one site. We don't overflow here. Okay, so I sent that. Then I'm going to send you.
On Teams.
Yes, I'm going to send it on Teams. Let me just grab this file. Oh my goodness, I have so many copies. There's the one site. Yes, I know, all these tabs open. Thank goodness I can keep it straight. Remove that. Then Niven, I'm going to drop that file for you there.
Thank you.
And now that I have dropped that file, I can now go in and I can say, well, I'm going to do documentation for this. And then I'm going to stop sharing so Niven can grab that file.
So share my screen now. All right, perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this downloaded file. I'm just going to go to downloads, find one site, click open. Oh, sorry. As you can see, it tells me to get a license, so I'm just going to go ahead. Agree to terms and conditions, change of province, it's going to be British Columbia, submit request. I'm going to approve myself real quick. Once it's complete, I just click refresh. You will also get an email notification once it's been approved. So I can just click here, onesite.asa. And I can go ahead and go to audit details. Ilishki has said complete the interviews and observations for head office. So I'm just going to go to site sampling, check off interviews and observations. And then now I can go conduct interviews. And as you can see, I can conduct head office and record the observations for head office as well. And once I am complete, I have put some data in here. Click done, and I can send the file back over to Ilishki. Just going to click done and save. Save as. I'm going to save it to my version. So that's going to be. And now I can send it back to Ilishki and Ilishki can complete the merge.
All right. I'm seeing two questions here I'd like to answer sort of in tandem. So, Christopher, I'm going to say it will be prompted. Yes, you should be prompted every time to either view it without a license or view with a license. The license is so you can participate. Reviewing without is just like, hey, I'm looking over it. Everything's good. So if you are participating, it will ask you. If you already, sometimes you might already have a license. If you have a license with the same legal name as the one you're getting, there may be a little bit of back and forth, but I can't say for sure. You'd reach out to us at support anyway, and then we do a little bit further investigation. But so far, yes, it should approve you every time without needing me, the lead auditor, to say that it's good or not. If I'm sending you the file, I'm basically giving you my approval. And then as for if we're going to do the doc, we're each going to do a document review, like half. It's still going to work. We're doing it the best practices as tidy as possible way so nobody makes mistakes. But if you're in constant contact with your lead auditor and you're like, hey, I've done the first 6 questions, you're doing the next 6 questions, or I did like, these elements, can you do these elements? Then it's going to work the same. It's just, it might get confusing if you have multiple people going into the same section and changing answers or adding scores. So can you do it? Yes, you can. Will there potentially be some reason you come to support afterwards and go, what's going on? Perhaps. May or may not occur. Depends.
But and I will note that that's totally fine. And Jamie, lots of people do it that way, but it's just that if the two of you accidentally put scores in the same question, or you have different scores for the same question, the merging might be a little weird. But those are things that we can correct later if you do, but we just advise you to make sure that you know how you're splitting up the work.
Yeah, not to make it a little too complicated, but I note with like even with scoring, it's not that bad. As remember when we said you need to agree if you're going to do percentage or fraction, we recommend fraction because what it will do if two files have two different scores, it'll add the two fractions together and find a middle ground between them and give that answer. Whereas if you're doing percentages, that might actually not, the program wouldn't do that for you. So you may have merging issues that way. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen. Oh, can you remind me how to leave comments once I've done my write-up? Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me share the screen and then I can demonstrate. Okay, so when you say once you've done your write-up, like you're deleting comments, I'm not sure if you mean, maybe I'll merge Niven's file first because his has some interviews and then I can demonstrate that way. We're going to say merge. I'm going to add an audit. I'm going to go to Niven's version 1 site. Oh goodness, you would have sent me Niven's version number 2, right, Niven? There we go. I think, yeah, that'll just be 1. Yeah, that's just 1. Okay, so let's go to interviews here. And I'm going to go, so I'm assuming you mean, okay, well, I want to edit here. So you can either delete the entire interview up here, or you can remove comments. You can say, well, I did a couple of really in-depth interviews, but I just want to summarize everything and not have, everyone's stuff. The nice part about that is you could just go to any comments, any person or interviewee section, and you can edit everyone's comment because the comments are collective. So if you're just like generalizing here, we'll say generalized statement, yes. And then I remove all of this. You can. And the other nice thing is you can see here, you can see from Niven's version. So it's telling me when something is mine, it doesn't have like this little from, but if it is from somebody else, then it will indicate that to keep things tidy. So if that's what you mean by deleting comments, those are the 2 ways.
A quick side note, the comments do not appear in the final report. So the comments are just for you when you do complete the audit results.
Hold on, hold.
Earl, did you have something to add as well?
I was just saying that you're in control of adding those comments to this portion, like the audit results here. Mm-hmm. And even when you add them, you still have the capacity to edit everything that's put in here. So you have complete control over editing what's going to show up in this final report.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just because the comments are still there under your gather evidence, it's not going to show up in the final report. So when you hit submit, the safety-driven team aren't going to see your comments. They will see the findings and notes, trends, and recommendations, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The ASA file is all of your auditor notes. It's all it's all the stuff that you want to keep track of and gather concerning that audit. And so you've got that available to you. But when you turn it in as a final product, you have total control over what shows up there.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm seeing here. All right, so we have a big question from Tony, but I don't know if we answered it. Question, if you have some corporate procedures which apply to all sides.
Yeah, I think I understand this question. You can do that, Tony. So what you would do is when you input the documentation, and maybe we should go to the review documentation portion. When you input the documentation at a certain site, let's say emergency response plan, you would just put, for every other question, you can put not applicable to this site, except for the questions that apply to that site. Now,
although I'd say, Retta, perhaps you wouldn't use the not applicable to site. You would rather just in site sampling only mark the locations where documentation will be reviewed. Like you can do head office, but then, oh, I guess you use this to edit that, don't you? My apologies.
Yeah, so you would be inputting documentation at, let's say, 2 sites. The corporate documents are at the head office, and then maybe everything else you can say not applicable to site. Now, just because it's not applicable to site doesn't mean that it's not applicable to the audit. So you must answer that question at another site. All the documentation questions need to be answered at least once at one site. Is that how it is, Earl? Did I say that correctly? Okay.
Yes, yeah, because your documentation may apply to everybody, but it's really, it's resident at the one place. The other thing I think too, it does when you are completing all the documentation review at one site, when you start on site number 2, that all the comments are already in place for that. You've already completed your comments. And so really all you're needing to do, in your comments is to make any additions to what you've seen, or so you've got that ability to add to the existing comments. In other words, you're building on what you've already done. You're not recreating it each time.
Also, I'd like to see here, I see our audit plan has separate elements for doc review and observation, but for the interviews, each auditor will cover all elements. Will there be problems merging the interview section? No, you will not have issues. The reason we did the whole demonstration of lead auditor does these 2 sections, the audit information and scope, before handing it off, is because a lot of your merging issues are going to come from these 2 sections not having the correct information that sort of matches. So as long as these 2 sections are all set and you don't have a conflicting interview, say like somebody says, well, they got, I mean, again, even if the score is, right? But if someone says yes and someone says no, there might be a conflict, but I don't believe it'll be a conflict in merging. It's only for these top 2 sections.
Yeah, and on that, the only place where I can see like some confusion is if, let's say here there are 9 total employees, but you accidentally interviewed more than 9. Like if one auditor has 5 and the other auditor has 5, then when you merge, it's going to tell you you have more interviews than employees. So then you can go in and you can then delete one of those interviews depending on what was the extra one.
It doesn't sound like the software, it flags it. It gives you an orange flag.
Yes.
But it's happy as long as you've done more than the minimum.
Yes.
So it's easy to satisfy. You don't have to worry about that.
But you can see here, so you can see I did 5 out of 4 workers. As long as I'm meeting the minimum requirement, it's pretty happy.
Awesome. It looks like we have one last question, and I think we're almost at time. So, right, it was relating to the comment about deleting comments. So when you're a student, when you're doing a student audit, you will be submitting the ASA file, and then your comments will be visible to your reviewers. Now, if you don't want that to be the case, you can go back and delete them after you've created your audit results. But that process is defined by safety driven. So, Earl, is there a specific way you like them to do it?
We're interested in the final report. Can you produce a cohesive final report? So as far as the student audit, you could submit it more as a final report and delete your comments out of it if you wish, but again, remember, a student audit is a coaching audit. So if you were going down a pathway that maybe we should be aware of, we say, hey, wait, where were you going here? We can talk stuff through, because it's still a teaching moment. So, don't worry about that. I think I should mention too, there's something we have run into or seen when you're passing that file from the lead auditor to your team and you're using email. Some emails really get upset with .asa files. So the workaround for that is to zip it up and send it, and it works just fine. But apparently .asa files have a bad rap in the IT world.
A little too complicated, a little too frustrating.
Awesome. We are at time. I did get some messages for some additional questions. Please feel free to drop them in the chat or send us a message. We will answer afterwards via email or video or whatever need be. But this was really, really awesome. Thank you all for coming out. And thank you, Alishka, Niven, for taking the time to answer all these questions, and the Safely Driven team for hosting us. We're happy to help anytime. So if you need support, you're welcome to reach out to us. Just remember that we're the software, we're the technology. So if you have questions about that, come to us. But if you have questions about the process or what do I need to do for this audit or things like that, go to Safety Driven. They will be able to help you with that type of question. Awesome. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, everyone who asked questions. We're going to wrap this up now. We will send out a recording to everybody. You're welcome to review it anytime. And we will also send up some more detailed responses to some of the questions we got, just so you have that as well.
Thank you so much, Radha. Thanks, Alishka and Niven. This was fantastic. And thank you all for attending. We're looking forward to your next audit. We'll see you later.